United. Today we're back with a match reaction for the Derby Day, one of the biggest games of the season. And we've got Andy and Chloe again today. Andy, how are you?
I'm good. I was about to say just defrosted from the Etihad, but it wasn't actually that bad yesterday. But the draw, isn't it?
Yeah. Chloe, how are you?
Yeah, I'm good. Just a little bit tired. I think the weekend.
Yeah, definitely. Before we get on to the game, we'll quickly say hi to people who's in the chat. We will get onto your questions later on as well. Hey there, Rava. Hope you're well. Thanks for coming in. Hey there, Reese. Thanks very much for that, Rava. Good evening, Niall. Hope you're well. Thanks for coming in. Hey there, just me. I hope you're well. Thanks for coming in. Hey there, Rushmore Sparkle. I hope you're well. Thank you for coming in. I don't know why it happened, Niall. The comments just go dead temperamentally. It switched off as soon as they uploaded it, and I was just like really annoyed because everyone kept saying, "Oh, what's happening with your comments?" Hey there to my dad. I hope you're well. Thank you for coming in, and good evening, Catherine. I hope you're well. Thank you for coming in. So we'll start off with the game, and we'll start off first of all with the starting 11 lineup. We'll go with you, Andy, because it was an unchanged lineup, and do you think that was a good call? Because the last two games it worked very well for us.
Yeah, I mean, it looked like it. I wasn't particularly too worried when we always sort of get the team news just under an hour before kickoff. Obviously, I was surprised that Leon was on the bench, but Leon wasn't in the squad, obviously. But obviously, she had flu on Wednesday. I thought probably the big surprise body was having Maria on the bench, but she was never used anyway, so we'll never know if that was genuine or one of Skinner's let's pretend she's available to confuse the opposition thing he does. But yeah, the sort of main sort of interesting one for me was obviously Nikita Paris playing against her old club. We'll probably discuss about her performance as well. And again, Garcia on the bench. I know there's been some chatter today on Twitter whether or not Garcia is now behind Paris in Skinner's thoughts, whatever goes on in that magical brain of his.
Chloe, same question for you, really, of what you thought the starting 11 was for you, because unchanged for me. I always think it's a good thing, especially, as I always say, never change an unbeaten team, right?
Yeah, exactly. I think looking back, if we think about Euros, Serena never changed her squad. She always put on the same subs as well in all the games. So, and you saw how it worked. So, seeing what Mark was doing and seeing that he didn't change it, I wasn't surprised. I had a feeling that he would keep the unchanged 11. But my only thing would have been if Lucia was ready to be in the starting 11, I think she would have been. That's spot that, Catherine. There you go.
Let's get there you go. Making an introduction to Devils United.
But yeah, the start, like I said, the starting 11 wasn't a surprise for me. I did think Lucia Garcia would start, but then I thought, like Andy did say, Nikita Paris against her former club would have been a good sign. And again, we'll probably touch on some of the players in a few minutes, but yeah, I wasn't surprised, and I did think that maybe some might have been changed, but yeah, I wasn't surprised with the starting 11.
Catherine also asked what your cat's name was.
I have 3, but that one was Spot.
Go on, name the other ones while you're there.
So her 2 kittens, well, they're not kittens anymore, but I've got Jedi and Simba as well.
Oh, yeah.
And Elvis the dog.
Elvis the dog.
Yeah.
Don't forget Elvis.
Elvis, it's his birthday today. He's 6 today.
Oh, happy birthday, Elvis. Big shout out to Elvis big shout out to Elvis. Hey there as well. I like coffee. I hope you're well. Thank you for coming in. I like coffee. The goal scorers I like coffee predicted, which was Toon and Chloe Keller, actually assisted. Well done again, I like coffee. Well done again, you absolute brilliant predictor. So we'll now go on to the first half. We got a goal, fantastic goal by Leah Golden, assisted by Ella Toon. Nothing really threatening in that first half for me, really, Chloe. Oh, you're on mute, Chloe. Oh, there you go. There you go.
Yeah, I think for me, I think that I only got a bit of the question.
It was about Leah Golden's goal, and as well us our first half, how it went overall, because we was quite an attacking team in that first half and very well defensively built.
Yeah, I think for me, I've got a little.
Oh, it looks like there's a lot of animals tonight. There you go. There's the birthday.
Elvis is here now. Hello, Elvis.
There you go. That oh, yeah, I think Leah Golden's goal was probably one of the best for me that she's performed. And I think the build-up play for it as well. You can stay there. Yeah, I think the build-up play from Tooney and Galton as well. I think it was brilliant. But yeah, I think for me, it was the build-up that we got for the goal, and just a passage of play as well from Leah to Tooney and then back, and her finding space was brilliant for us, even though we couldn't see it as well as we could because it was on the opposite side. It was still an outstanding goal. So yeah, I think for me the build-up play was probably one of the best that we've had for a few of the games.
Yeah, I completely agree with that. And same question for you, Andy, because I actually think Manchester United, they done very well, because I think City had a few corners in that first half as well.
Yeah, I was going to say, because I mean, you were saying they were not threatening, but like I disagree. I think we were kind of under the cosh in the first half. It was a little bit like a hybrid game between against Chelsea, where obviously we lost 3-1, and Arsenal when we eventually won. You know, because I remember that time when Mary was on the line, wasn't she? She got sort of almost pushed behind the line, and we were under a lot of pressure, but we withstood that pressure. That was really good, and but we did do a lot of passing back really in our box, and we got a bit lucky at times. But obviously, as you say, it was still like an improvement from Chelsea, but it was weird. It was almost like, I'd say, a bit like the Arsenal game, but obviously in the end, it was a draw rather than the win that we got. But basically, I think Galton played the best game she's played all season. I think, if you think about Garcia coming in, Paris coming in, Leah coming in, before Hansen got shipped off to Villa, it's, trust me, spoiler, that's going to be permanent. She was kind of numero uno when it comes to name on team sheet. And there was that question. She still kind of has been, but there was that question when Garcia came in and when Paris came in. And she played brilliantly, looking at the whole game, and she was full of energy, played really, really well. Basically, she kind of almost like ran herself dry. But if she was sort of thing like dead battery, and I think we're probably talking to reasons maybe why that wasn't a win, because I think we have got a very strong first 11 now, but we haven't got any game changers off the bench. If we're honest, compared to City and Arsenal and Chelsea, there wasn't really anybody there that I thought was going to save the day. Possibly Garcia. When she came
on too late, though.
She came on too late. And I do, just sort of circling back on what you said earlier. Yeah, obviously Serena Weigman there's only one Serena Weigman in my opinion. Comparing Skinner with Serena Weigman's a bit of a stretch, to be honest. But I know in the sense of the fact that he doesn't, the problem is, I think with the club game as well, is that if you are rigid on your 11, completely rigid on your 11, then if you're going against a good coach, and Emma Hayes, a Jonas, occasionally Gareth Taylor, all right, fine. It doesn't take a rocket scientist to get the film, to practice it, and to learn how to beat that. And to be honest, City did really well in reducing the amount of time we had on the ball. They were on us as soon as we got the ball. They made us go very tight a lot of the time. And a lot of the time, that little dinky little passes that you got us doing, it was quite rushed. And we kind of didn't really make much progress because it was like, boom, someone's on us. Boom, someone's on us. So it was kind of like quite heavy in midfield. And it was only sort of a few, moments of magic, like the Golden goal, Honor being absolutely world class in her position, that we kind of stood up. So it was a progress. But again, I mean, I wonder whether the fact that I wasn't actually aware, I've forgotten until I saw today that it's the first goal we scored away against City. And maybe there's an element of psychology there. But I think it's good that we're playing against the bigger pitches. But we've discussed this on a few other pods. I think it's good that we're playing in the bigger Prem pitches, and we're only going to get better because of that. Because it's going to get our energy levels up. It's going to get our stamina up, and it's going to be better for the team. Because even like people like Villa have spent a lot of time at Villa Park, and now they're looking a bit better in the bigger matches. And I think we need that.
Yeah, I think the reason why I didn't feel overall threatened by Man City is that they had the corners, they had the chances, but none of the chances for me felt like there was somewhere where I could go, oh my God, that was nearly going to go in. And it felt like City, they were still in that game 1/game 2.
I think it was the first half, the one where Mary was like behind the line. She got sort of pushed in the goal almost. It was a scramble. That was the one I'm thinking of. I don't know if you remember that one, Chloe.
Yeah, I thought that was the second half.
Was it?
Yeah.
I thought that was the second half.
I can't remember. Oh, was that the second half? Oh, okay.
Yeah, but for me, I think it definitely is improvement because, like you said, we have got our first goal away against Manchester City, and I think if this was if this was at another season, like previous seasons, we probably would have lost that game. If that was gonna be that we got battered after we scored, or that mentality seemed to go once we concede a goal, because usually when it comes to the likes of Arsenal, Chelsea and Man City, we seem to lose our heads a little bit after they score against us. So I think that's also improvement, that we was able to keep our heads high and to still keep a defensively built team. I think for me, I know City, them not giving us enough time on the ball worked in our advantage, because I think what I think City didn't realise also is that we are a very quick counter-attacking team. And we've got the pace of Dalton, we've got the pace of Bonner, Blundell's very quick, we've got Tuna, we've got Russo, we've got very, very quick players who were starting in that game. Paris, she's very good at cutting in also. I think that them not giving us enough time, it only worked in our favour, in my opinion.
Yeah, I mean, I think there's probably true on that, because at the end of the day, it's another football adage, isn't it? Is that you should play your own game, and if you start playing something different, then you're going to struggle yourself. And there wasn't really a lot of peppering of our goal and that kind of thing. It was kind of, again, the goal that we did give away in the second half. We move on to it, was just a switch off goal a little bit. But there was. Throughout the game, there was, I know there's been some various finger pointing online, but I mean, the thing is about it is Zalem and Millie did their usual sort of random kicks to nobody or kicks to the opposition at a couple of points. There's a lot of sort of groans, in the away end and that kind of stuff. But I mean, it's frustrating because I could see, it's like one of those, if you did 100 coin tosses, I could see if we played them 10 times, we probably win most of the 10. Do you know what I mean? Like, I could see we are not that far away from, arguably we are a stronger team than City, but City currently probably have stronger squad overall. As I said, I think I kind of had a bit of a epiphany about maybe why we lost this late after the match, when I tend to be a bit more, I'm sure this doesn't come any surprise, temperamental when it comes to a loss, whereas Chloe, you actually could work in football within 5 seconds is fine. So I admire that to her, and hopefully I can get there at some point if it ever works out like that. But
you will do.
I I can be quite vicious when I'm angry. But yeah, I don't know. I mean, it was one of them. As I said, I could see we could have won that game. We could have also lost it. But it feels like 2 points lost, not 1 point game for me.
Yeah, I completely agree with that. And you knew that I was fuming after that goal went in. I couldn't speak for a bit, but it's just all part of that passion. Hey, as well there to Liam. Hope you well, Paul. I hope you well. Thanks for coming in. Hey there, Liam. I hope you well. Thank you for coming in. And hey there to Henry. Hope you well. Thanks for coming in. I will go on to your comments later on. I want to touch now onto the second half in terms of the goal was conceded quite early on into that second half. For me, there was nothing Marriott could have done in terms of that goal. I really don't believe there was nothing Mary could have done. She got herself into a position where she thought the ball was, and I think that's understandable. I would have done the same in her shoes, but for me, I think it was lack of marking and lack of concentration really from the Manchester United side. What do you think, Chloe, about that goal conceding?
I agree with you, Maisy. I think for me, you can't blame everyone in it. You can blame like the keeper couldn't do anything more. She dived to the right side. It was just the power that it missed her. But you've got to think, like, who was marking Laura Coombs? Who was marking the person that was passing the ball into Laura? Why did no one go for the ball? And you've got to think about that. And for me, that's where you can say, right, you need to get tighter onto that player. You need to mark that player. And if you'd got to that player and got the ball first, or not have passed it to that player or something, there's a lot of excuses. There's a lot of things we can say about it, but we just need to focus on our marking. We need to focus on who we need to mark in terms of them danger players. So, because I think we can say it. The danger player for City is Bunny Shaw. She is the danger for City because she's the one she's a top goal scorer. But for me, she didn't play her best yesterday. And for me, we were focusing on the ball getting to her. So we completely forgot about everyone else in the box. So it comes down to the defending. It comes down to the over marking in terms of the midfielders and the people tracking back. And Mary couldn't do anything else. Mary she couldn't. She had no. The reaction was the ball came in and she was in two minds of, does she come out and risk it going in, or does she stay on the line and risk it going in, but also risk it being saved? So she was in two minds, and for me, that's what being a goalkeeper is all about. Your decisions, and for me, I think she picked the right decision in that aspect, that she stayed in the net, but it's the marking that we need to now focus on, because that is where we will lose games or draw games. And for me, I'll just touch on like what Andy was saying before the question. Yes. Is that I'm happy with a win or a draw, because at the end of the day we still get points. But it's frustrating that we let our goal lead go when we've had so many chances to score more. And I think that, and I know we'll probably touch on it again with the subs, but how many times on the podcasts or when we all meet up do we say Mark needs to do quick subs? And it never happens. It never happens. And that for me, he brought on two players. He brought on Lucia Garcia and Martha Thomas. He could have brought on Jade Moore. He could have brought Risa on. He has five subs. So why is he not using them?
Even City only made one sub. That's Hayley Rasso.
Yeah, exactly. And they only made one sub because their players weren't tired, because they didn't do anything. Whereas our players were doing a lot. And
But did they have good players on the bench, though? That's the question, because you look at City's bench, Demi Stokes, Steph Orton, Mary Fowler, Angie Dal, Esme Morgan, Alana Kennedy, Julie Blackstad.
I think Blackstad's a star in it.
I think the only one for me would be Julie Blackstad. Why they've not bought her on, I didn't know. Because she is, for me, she probably would have won them the game. I think she's a player that is getting wasted on their bench.
I completely agree with them. The substitute. What you did mention, Chloe, because I think, especially after that goal got conceded, we did really need to bring on a substitute. Hayley Ladd, she rarely gives the ball away, and I don't think Hayley Ladd had a good game at all. I'm not disrespecting Hayley Ladd when I say that, because I really love Hayley Ladd. I think she's a rock. But when you see that she is giving the ball away, you know that there is something wrong, and that's where you look at Jade Moore and go, Jade, do you want to come on? Because Jade, I know she played. I think she played. No, she didn't play a full 90, did she? Against
no, she played
in the FA Cup the Conte.
Yeah, she only played 45 minutes because she's got asthma, so she brought on the inhaler after she scored the goal.
That's what I thought.
With the cold weather, they probably thought not to bother.
Yeah. I know Andy's dying to say something right now.
Go on then.
You're very close to more, you know, her mother, so I've got to be careful what I'm saying there. But I mean, from a purely objective perspective, if she's got asthma, that has to come into the consideration. So they do have inhalers on hand, and again, I would question about picking X over Y if X has got that problem, because we live in the UK and it's very, very cold sometimes. But I agree. My reason why, but that's not a criticism personally. I would say that to about anybody. But what I was going to say is the problem I've got, and I've got, you know, I've made it clear I don't really understand. I don't really like Skinner, really, in a way. But we've discussed about the goal being us switching off again, you know, and we've obviously made improvements. But the thing is, you know, it's not like the NFL. We'll get on to his ridiculous comment later in the pod. You know, you haven't got, you know, a goalkeeper coach, a D-line coach, and all this kind of stuff. You know, in football, you've got a goalkeeper coach, you've got the assistant coach, you've got the main coach, and all right, you might have a couple of others working with him. So if we keep how many times has Skinner said in interviews, in moments we could have been better, moments we switched off, moments we switched off. Fix it, Mark, or fix it, Martin. You know, like, you know, obviously he's not going to tell us how he's going to fix it. But it's almost like you know, it's always going to be there kind of discussion with him. Oh, you know, we're getting better. You know, I know he has this grand plan of Skinnerball, which, you know, is like the most complicated way of doing anything. And maybe it's unclear to see, but it's just kind of a bit, well, how do the players not switch off? Well, they'll make their own personal development. They'll look at film. The captain will talk around. But also the coach would have to import, right, okay, look, you know, going through it on a Tuesday, on a Monday morning, right? See the goal, see how you switched off here, see how you switched off there. And if it happens next week, well, why did it happen next week? If it happens next month, why did it happen next month? And I feel like we are improving, but I don't know if it's luck or judgment, whether or not we are actually getting, you know, Skinner's coaching it in and he's getting them better, or whether or not we're just getting better because some players are taking it upon themselves to lead. I mean, obviously he's talked about having a 4-person leadership team, you know, and actually if you think about who they are, it's a bit defense heavy as well. So you would think any defensive problems could be nipped in the bud. It's got Honor Mannion, Lad, and obviously, you know, Katie as a sort of.
Did you almost get Katie?
As a sort of thing, and then Mary as well. So it is kind of defensively heavy, and you know, and you would assume that you could do that. I don't know. I mean, I just think, you know, let's remember. All right, irrespective of everybody's views on Skinner, he has a pedigree. You know, a bit of a pedigree anyway. You know, he was a youth coach originally. He went through the ranks in Birmingham. You know, he brought Birmingham to an FA Cup final, I think. You know, he didn't win it. Ended up in the end WSL, but you know, kind of had a coffee in the NWSL. Really, you know, it wasn't there for that long. Didn't really set the world alight with Orlando. But I don't know enough about the NWSL to see if that mostly him or if that, you know, is other things. But he's got a pedigree. Martin Ho, I know he's a deputy, but he was kind of already there. It's like he's like the sofa that was in the house that you just got. You know, if you just moved in, someone left.
Yeah, when you pay the extra
you know what I mean?
250 quid
Yeah,
to keep him.
someone left him there. You know, he was Casey Stoney's originally, and I believe he worked for the academy at some point. But he's never managed anywhere else, and he's never managed on his own. I don't know if he has as desires to do so. But what does he bring to the table apart from getting stressed out with fans on Twitter? I don't understand really. So I'd be interested to see with Polly Bancroft, who has a very good football in mind, and she's discussed about how, you know, her head is split. She's got the business commercial, and she's got the UEFA experience, and she's got, you know, the football experience as well. You know, are there going to be restructures next year? You know, is she happy with what we've got at the minute? Because at the end of the day, if we keep switching off, it's kind of like, you know, it's kind of like an obvious thing for you as an opposing coach to sort of aim at. Right, they're going to switch off at some point. When they do, you sort of you pounce. So it kind of needs to be fixed as soon as possible, I think.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I completely agree with that, to be honest. It just felt like for me that there wasn't the management in the team. I feel like that was the thing. What was the difference between getting the win, getting this draw, and potentially even a loss, to be honest? Because there could have been a lot more being done. I think as much as I thought Nikita Paris didn't have the best first half, I think it was wrong to sub Nikita Paris off first for Leah Golton, because Leah Golton was absolutely exhausted. And I think to myself of, why did Garcia play as a striker rather than a winger? That was something more that completely baffled me, because I'm not mistaken. I don't know if I'm mistaken here, Chloe, and maybe you'll be able to tell me more, but Athletic Club, didn't Lucia Garcia play more as a striker in there?
For Atletico Club,
Yeah.
Played a lot on the wing. It's the Spanish national team she played up front.
Okay.
Because in the Euros, I know me and Andy went to the Spain-Germany game, and she played up front for him. And
that was instead of their striker, isn't it? Because Jenny was injured.
But they left Esther Gonzalez, who was their main striker, and their number 9, on the bench for Lucia to play up front when she could have played on the wing. So it was one of them. It's, for me, don't play players out of position if they don't need to be played out of position. Because we bought on Martha Thomas, who then could have then gone, when Leslie came off for obviously Lucia, Martha could have then could have gone forward, and Lucia could have gone on the wing. But no, Martha stayed on the side, on the wing, and Lucia went through the middle. So I don't know what he's thinking in that, unless he's trying to develop Lucia to play more up front in that aspect.
It seems like, for me, every time there is an interview what comes on with Mark, we will touch on the comments soon of one of them, but every time there's a comment with Mark, he goes, maybe I might be taking it the wrong way, but you look at Golton had a good game, but we needed to look at playing more on the right and up front. And you could say, and like Lucia Garcia, she needs to work on playing here a bit better. This player needs to work on a bit more better on here. And I think if you've had a good game, why would you want to criticize what the weak areas are as well of the player? And we know Leah Golton, for me, she's probably one of the most left-footed wingers I've ever met. She will not touch that right foot. If the ball touches her right foot, she will move it over to that left foot. That is the kind of player she is, and that is not a bad trait to have. It isn't, because if your left foot is so brilliant and you can cut in and you can score a goal, which is in fantastic form for me this season, I don't have no issues. It's like when you've got, well, why would you move her over to right for it to get potentially exposed, because the players will be then relying on her right foot.
Yeah, exactly. And I think in what you're saying there is completely right. I agree with that. I think Leah is probably one of the best left footers we've got, and probably one of the best left footers in the league. And to play her on the left is great. Is like great potential for us. It's what we need. But then it's also when you see him switch at times, because obviously we do see him switch. It messes with the play. It messes with the opposition. And when Leah uses her left foot on the right side, that's where we can. For me, that's where it might work in terms of scoring goals, because it's that left-footed cross. And if you see with the like, we watch a lot of the men's, don't we? And we see left-footed players take the right corners, and the right-footed players take the left corners because of the outswing of the ball.
I just worry as well, like, if we was going to look at, for instance, comparing a men's football, I'm not huge at doing this, but look at Anthony, for instance.
Yeah.
He's a left-footed right-wing player.
Yeah.
And he doesn't like taking on a defender. Could that be the same with Galton? If she moved on over to that right-hand side, she doesn't want to take on any defenders because she feels uncomfortable to do so, and she might... Galton's not one for this, but taking a long shot.
Yeah.
Just so she can feel like, I can do this.
Yeah, I completely agree with that. I think if we moved Leah over to the right side, it wouldn't work for me, in my head. In my eyes, in my head, it wouldn't work. Her best position is on the left, and we know she can play left back as well. So we know she can do that. So having her, like what Mark said, like we're trying to get her to play more forward or more in the middle. It's like, yeah, try and get her to play more forward, but keep her on the left wing, push her more up on the left wing, get her more forward on the left wing. But don't put her in the middle when you've got Bo Risa on the bench, who can be put in the middle.
Oh yeah, we've already had very much conversations on Bo Risa. I think that's probably going to come in imminently.
What's your thoughts on what playing players out of position for you, Andy?
It's just so strange because, again, I'll bang this drum until Skinner eventually leaves, because at some point, obviously, he's not going to be there forever. And he has favourites, and no decent coach should have favourites. And if they do, no decent coach should make them that bloody obvious. He can see them from space. And I think a lot of the time, because he has favourites, people that are immovable, that he won't criticise, that he'll put in place, you end up moving players around those players. And maybe that's where the out of position comes from. I think, one of the big changes from Casey to Skinner is we used to do that sort of breaking out on the wing all the way and then whipping it in the box kind of thing. We still kind of do that now. We kind of reverted a little bit more to a hybrid model from that. But for a long, long time, we'd go halfway down the pitch and we'd have to stop and pass it to the side or pass it back. We did that a little bit, against City. I think playing players out of position is fine if it's a position that they're comfortable with, and if it's a position that they feel that they're not getting punished by putting in that position. In the sense of, I think you hear some players talk, those that aren't necessarily starters, they get your 8 minutes, they get your 15 minutes, and then Skinner plays them in a position that isn't their favourite position. And I think it's a bit like, well, how am I going to show what I can do if you're putting me in a position that isn't the position that I like, to an extent? But then obviously, in modern football, especially for bench players or as Americans say, game changers, but it's kind of true to an extent. You kind of need a little bit of versatility like that. So I do see the appeal of that for players that can play multiple positions. But to an extent, the old adage is true of jack of all trades, master of none. You get very, very few world-class players that can play in multiple positions. You're world-class at one position and you're a little bit worse, but still really good at others. So as long as there's a great point of Catherine here, Mark seems to use games to test if his players have an inkling, can play elsewhere and can accomplish his gut feeling. He does that, but there's a couple of fixed points. Zellum, for example. She didn't play particularly badly at the City game.
I think she's always played out of position, though.
Whatever happens, she's on the pitch. And in the 4-2-3-1 position, she knocks out 50% of your option in the 2-bit. Do you know what I mean? You've only got one other option, Hayley Ladd, or to go next to her, like what happened on Sunday, or Bo Risa. And the thing about Skinner is, one of the, I think it might have been Catherine, but one of the people said to me a while ago, and it's true, that that there is a possibility that when he finally gets all of his little positions, if you sort of visualize a 10,000 piece jigsaw, when he finally gets it all together, it might be brilliant. And there is an argument that possibly he got sacked at Orlando before he had put all pieces in place. Similar idea with Birmingham, but more, I think he had the opportunity to move on. That maybe if United do give him this year and his option year, maybe we will see this magical Skinner ball that he's been trying to construct. But sometimes we see it really, really work, and sometimes we see it almost over-engineered, a bit too complicated. And I think especially when we've got a misweighted squad, we've now got a very strong starting 11, a very, very strong starting 11. But we've got a big drop off when we get subs on. And I think when you're asking people to do very complicated things, hopefully we can get more squad depth come in that might be able to take it on a bit better.
Sorry about that. My internet cut off during it while she was talking. But let's go to the questions, and then we will look at the lovely quote what we seen earlier on. Question for Ravi: which players do you think had a good game, and which players do need to step up, show more in game? I don't think there's anyone more who I'd say needs to step up, because every single player does step up, but there's just them odd mistakes. And I'm not pinpointing it's every single. It's a certain player who makes a mistake every game, because there is different players who make a mistake. But I do disagree that players do need to step up, because this season especially they have shown that they can step up in big games. They've done it at Arsenal. We got a draw against City, what would have been different probably this time last season, but who had a good game. For me, probably people would have said Galton would have been player of the match, but for me, Blundell was my player of the match.
Yeah, she looked really strong. She didn't wobble in the past. She was quite wobbly against the top three, almost literally. Sometimes she would sort of look like sort of wobbling and sort of clear it and stuff like that. She looked a lot more secure, a lot more confident in what she was doing. Honor obviously was another one. I mean, I would go far to say, and I said this to Chloe, but I'll say it on camera as well. I think we need to keep both Honor and Russo. But if you put a gun to my head, I'd keep Honor, because Honor is the only world class with a big W player that we've got, like world class player. Like, Mary's England number one, very, very good. Russo's very good. Tooney's very good. But you want to talk about your Alexia Putellas, your Oberdorf, your sort of top level players. I would kind of start moving Honor towards the top tier. She is. I can't remember the last bad game she had. And I would say we need to keep hold of that, because we kind of got her by accident, I think, based on what was going on with the money in Spain and all this kind of stuff. So I want to keep Honor, and I want to keep Russo. I want to keep Honor. I know she might want to go to Barca, but if she was interested in staying and we could only keep one, I would keep Honor.
Well, you, Chloe, who was your player of the match? Who do you think had a good game?
I think for me, I agree with most of yours, to be fair. Leah had a fantastic game. Hannah, Honor, Mary again. But it was, for me, it was Leah. Leah was probably the best player on the pitch, in my eyes. She was everywhere on the pitch. I think I said it to you, Maisy, didn't I? I think it was in the second half, and we knew Nikita Parrish was coming off, and I said, instead of taking Nikita Parrish off, take Leah off. She looked absolutely knackered. Like, she looked like she couldn't keep up with the City players on her wing, and I wanted I wanted her off for her not to get any more injured. I wanted her off just to get that rest. But when Paris Kate went off, when Russo went off, Leah kind of just picked up that energy again somehow. It was like she took a break and then she picked it up again. And the amount of times that the crosses went into the box or she was in the box, it was incredible for her. And it was probably, I know what have you said it before in the pod, but it was her. For me, it was her best game this season. And if she can keep like that for the second half of the season, then we sign her up for more years for me.
Question from Niall. Can United compete for the lead this season? No, in my opinion. I don't think the title is something that we need to look at. Top 3 is what our aim is for this season. And do they need to strengthen in key areas? I think we need to strengthen in attack. For me, in my opinion, we need someone really who, as much as I like Vildebovie, so I wanted to play, Tooney doesn't really have competition. We need competition for me for Tuna. I think, no disrespect to Martha, no disrespect to Rachel Williams, but I think we need a striker. Because if Russo is going to go, which I think the odds are it's looking likely, we're going to need to have a top goal scorer again at Manchester United. And another one, we need a fullback. Even if Blundell stays, we've only got 2 fullbacks, so that means they're playing every single game, or you're going to be playing a centre-back out of position.
Yeah, exactly. I agree with what you say, Maisy. I think we need to strengthen in the attack. We need to strengthen in the attack to prepare for Russo to go, because I think in our heads we think that she's potentially going. We need to have that rival in that competitive rival for Tuna in terms of where she plays, because Bolarisa is there, but she also takes position of where Katie Zellum is. And then obviously fullbacks, because like you said, we've only got Hannah and Honor. We do have Maya, because she is an actual fullback, but she's playing so well at centre-back that I wouldn't even put her back in fullback. I'd keep her centre-back. But what worries me, and I know Andy can touch on this as well, is goalkeepers, because all 3 of our goalkeepers have their contracts up this year at the end of this season, and I would love to keep Mary. I think Emily Ramsey might go. If she stays, she'll go back out on loan, because it will depend on if we keep Sophie Bagler. But will Emily Ramsey want to be on the bench as a second or third goalkeeper, or would she want to go out and be a first team player like she is at Everton at the minute? And for me, that's what we're now worried about, because in January, I think we definitely do need a fullback. We definitely do. In terms of if Hannah or Ronna get injured, and we need to look at getting a striker in January. But for me, there's a few positions that I think we do need to strengthen, but I don't think goalkeepers it's one that we need to strengthen. We need to look at potential other goalkeepers coming in if any of ours leave.
And what's your thoughts as well, Ander?
Yeah, I mean, I'll pick up on that now. I just noticed Catherine's quite right. She's a proper journalist, whereas I'm just a gob on a stick. And obviously, he wasn't sacked at Orlando. He did leave for Man United, but I kind of got caught between 2 English idioms. I kind of was going to say a bit of a mank term, which he kind of sacked off Orlando for United, which is meaning that he just kind of like ditched them. But I don't know, again, just from sort of whispers, whether or not he kind of saw the way the wind was blowing and maybe, oh, great, I got this opportunity now. And whereas maybe another year or so at Orlando, he might have been let go, because I don't think they've ever really done anything in the NWSL. But yeah, going back to sort of strengthening key areas, I mean, you have to ask the question, why does Russo want to go? If she wants to go. Because at the moment,
especially if Russo is a Man United fan, don't forget.
Yeah, I mean, and I'm not sure how much that takes. Beth Mead's a Man United fan. I'm not sure Sam Kerr was a Man United fan. I'm not sure how much that. I'm not a professional footballer, surprisingly, and I'm not sure, how much does that like. I mean, I'm sure it gives you something special, but is that the be all of end all as a player? I don't know. You'd like to think so as fans. Obviously, it is your club you want to play for, but I think going with the goalkeepers, the problem we've got, and maybe it's because of the way Casey left and all the issues that came in, and I had a great part a while ago, actually with Catherine, where we were pointing out that we kind of are a little bit like the grumpy teenagers at Man United, like in the sense of we've only been around for a short period of time, but not yesterday, but not 15 years. We're kind of in that middle ground, and we're kind of a bit grumpy, and we kind of want a bit more, and we've kind of grown quite quickly, and we've got growing pains because we're playing with the sort of big girls, we're playing with the top three, and possibly you would expect that we're a bit further along than Man United originally thought they were going to be, irrespective of like the Glazers and all that jazz, and about the full funding plans, all that kind of thing. I think even though I think people have pointed out there's been points in other seasons where we were top of the league at Christmas, but we still fell out the top four. I think we're going to finish. Well, we are finished. I think we are third at the moment, aren't we? Just behind Arsenal. We're probably in a more realistic position to get top three. If you put a gun to my head in January and say, "Are you going to get top three?" I would, or get third more specifically. At this point, I would say, yeah, actually, I think we'll make it. But so then you have to ask, well, that'll be us in Champions League then. So why does Russo want to go? If she wants to go, is it game time? Well, no, not really. She's kind of the first name on the team sheet. Is it she wants to compete and win in the Champions League? Maybe, because obviously once we get the Champions League, we could struggle to get in the group stage. We have to qualify twice. It's going to be tough. So is it to do with that? Is it because, and I've heard on good authority, that Man United lowballed her before the Euros, and she's not a fan of Mark Skinner and she fancies something new? Is it because Mary talks with great, I know it's a different position, obviously. Mary talks with great fondness and beauty about being outside the UK and how she learned so much in Germany. She carries number 27 because it reminds her when she was at Wolfsburg. Lucy Bronze talks about learning a new language and culture and how she's always enjoyed being outside the UK. Is it that kind of reason? Obviously Russo loved being abroad in the college system in the US, but that was curtailed by COVID. So is it a lifestyle reason? We're not really going to know. But it is, the problem that we've got is maybe because we are a new team, we have only been going for 5 years. We've kind of got a situation where I know it's slightly different in the women's game and the men's game, where the contracts are unbalanced. We've got a lot of people either out of contract this season or on a 1 year option. And a lot of those players have become very, very good very, very quickly, also known as very expensive to keep. So, we are having those conversations. I think Mary is a no-brainer if we can keep her. I think if you consider that we had her when she was actually contemplating retirement, when the God's gift of football, Phil Neville, decided that she wasn't good enough for the England team. I think of that snub akin to the fact that Beth Mead wasn't taken to the Olympics by Risa. It was a ridiculous decision by Phil Neville at the time. Emily Ramsey, now Chloe have had conversations about this. I'm in love with Emily Ramsey's height because she's 6 foot. I think she's 6'4", 6 foot. She's very, very tall, possibly 6 foot on the dot. I'm not sure, but she's very tall. Might even be that tall actually, but she's 5'12", but she's very tall. And and I think and I kind of want to flog that dead horse right until the end before I get rid of her, because if we can make her good, we'll be in a really good position. You just got to look at Enla for Lyon. You've actually just got to look at Catherine might know this from the NWSL. There's a second string player for Gotham that's playing in the A-League women at the minute. He's 6'3". Like, so if we can find a good tall keeper, we would have a very good option. So I'm tempted to keep her if she's happy to be second tier. And I know people think I'm going to be harsh, but I just see them as players. I don't mean this personally. I'd put Sophie Bagley on the nearest car out of here, to be honest. She's not the level. She's not the level that we need.
Chloe's not happy with you.
Chloe's not happy. Other girls that I know that are very, very knowledgeable about football know more than I do disagree. That's part of life, but I just don't see it. She's too short.
We can't change that. We can't change being small.
Oh, I know. She's too short. She's too flimsy. She doesn't make herself big enough, and that is technique. You can teach the angle stuff, and I just think there's better options out there. But I also know someone, a very good friend of mine, who thinks that she's on par with Muscovich. So, it might just be me being weird.
As well, Catherine did make a point as what I'll touch on as just mentioned as well. I think if you make Champions League, you have a chance of keeping honour and recruiting a good bench. If not, the current conundrum may arguably continue. So that's just putting a whole lot more pressure there onto Manchester United that we do need to secure this Champions League to get the best what we possibly can. I'll just quickly touch on that in terms of what players should have started. I think for me, probably maybe Andy or Chloe may say Garcia, but I think the correct lineup was there for me. I really do believe so. And the only reason why I think that is because I think Nikita Paris, she wants something to prove against herself with other, against the likes of Man City, against the likes of Arsenal. And I've always said is when we play the Chelseas, the Arsenals and Man Cities, I want Nikita Paris playing for them narrow spaces. And I think Lucia Garcia plays a whole lot more better when she is being used in spaces like the likes of Leicester, the likes of West Ham, the likes of Reading. That's why we will see. That's no disrespect to Lucia Garcia, by the way, but I just worry that, especially knowing that Lucia is so new to the league, is she going to get exposed in narrow, tight spaces?
I think also as well with Garcia, she was injured, wasn't she? And maybe again, this is about player management for Skinner. He seems to be pretty poor at getting back, and she's gone from pretty much being a nailed-on starter to now a bench player or a player that's coming off the bench. Obviously, Leon, again, I know she's had a couple of injuries and they had the jet lag from Canada. Has he managed her properly? The only player, arguably, in that kind of position that he's managed well is Paris, who's taken the opportunities of the ball by the horns and is doing really well at the moment. They didn't have a best game on Sunday.
Mm-hmm. What do you want to touch on as well, Chloe?
I'll touch on that question. It's for me. I think Lucia could have started, but I think. Well, obviously, we had a midweek game. She played during the midweek, and she was coming back from injury. So it was two questions of you've just played I can't remember how long she played in the Conti Cup, but you just played midweek. You've coming back from injuries, and we don't want to rush you to be started. But then you've got, like you said, Maisy, and like you said, Andy, you've got Nikita Paris who can play.
Lucia played a full game.
She played the 90 minutes, so it's like Vilda Borisa where they played their full 90 minutes midweek. If they'd come off, say, in the 65th minute, in the 55th minute, they potentially might have got on earlier, in my head, or that might have been like, yeah, I'll start you this year instead of Nikita or stuff like that. But my question is to you and Andy, is if Leon was fit enough to play, because obviously she wasn't on the bench yesterday, do you think she would have come on for Leah Golton?
Yeah, because Leah ran out of energy. She did literally at some point just run herself dry. She did brilliantly because of it. But we did have a bit of a gap, a bit of a 10-minute gap where she was kind of, if she was a mobile phone, she'd be flashing red. Like she was like really kind of, and as you say, Russo was in a similar position and we had a position to switch for her. I think, but again, I think it's I think when we do get Leon, what's she going to be like? Because she's not getting the time, and it is an option. Obviously, Skinner's talked about how it's the worst part of his job choosing his 11 and all this kind of stuff. So it is a difficult one. I think Leon again has done better than we thought that she was going to be when she first arrived. I think Paris is a big surprise because she kind of looked a bit finished after Leon. After Arsenal rather, because she just didn't really get played at all. One goal, I think, last season or something on those lines. I think that might have been a penalty, and she's done really, really well, this year, and has actually kind of endeared herself to the fans eventually. So it's just an interesting decision. I mean, maybe we could look Maisy at Borisa, starting with Reese's comment, because I think there's a lot of discussion on Barisa, and I'm probably going to be a lot harsher than Chloe. So maybe start with the sweetness, and I'll finish with the sour.
Go for you first, and then I'll bring in the sweetness.
So that means me going first. Let's go with Andy's comment first.
Andy first, and then
If you bring up Reese's comment about Barisa,
that will have to be quite far up, to be honest. So.
Sorry, I thought you started. Sorry, I didn't realise.
Oh no, it's fine. I didn't start his comment. This one.
Barisa should have started ahead of Zelen. Again, evidence that she's useless. Sorry, actually, I've just reread that. Are you saying that Zelen's useless? Is that what you're saying?
Yeah.
That's what
he's saying. Right, Zelen's useless.
Right, okay, I misread that. So you can get rid of that. Yeah, so that's different. That's different. I don't think she's useless. She's just not Alexia Putellas with fake tan that Mark thinks she is. But anyway, with Barisa, there's a couple of things that are coming to point. It's a good point about playing the 90, but these are international players. I mean, Barisa isn't really anymore, arguably because she's not getting the game time with United. I know she's been in and out of the squad with Norway. If you play a tournament, and I appreciate you've got time to build up, and it is a tournament, is different, you will play 3 or 4 days later. So the odd occasion where, all right, Barisa played against in the Conti Cup, blew everybody away, like played brilliantly. To not give her even his usual cameo bullshit that he does, all I could think of is that he just doesn't like her, doesn't rate her. And, and I think, sometimes we're all just talking, well, having fun, just chatting about it now, but you kind of want to say, and I kind of want to save my breath now. If Skinner doesn't like Barisa, he needs to get rid of her because there's no point having somebody on the bench that he's not going to play. There just isn't. So he might as well get something for her, set her free, as much as it hurts to say, because I think she is really, really good. Because there's no point.
And she'll thrive at another club.
Yeah, there's no point. She's got Ebony. She's got a bit of Ebony. She's a bit older than Ebony Salmon, but she's got a bit of a salmon written all over it. If she goes somewhere else, she's going to smash it, and we're all going to be kicking ourselves. I just think there's no point. If he's not going to play her, there's no point having her on the bench. And you could say, well, she's got to get better. She's got to get used to the physicality of the league and all.
She's been there over a year.
Yeah, all this kind of crap. Let's be honest. I got to be careful with the language here, but she scored 2 goals and played brilliantly midweek. Nothing happened. What's she got to do? What has she got to do to be? And the problem with that, and the problem with that is that we will go on to that. We'll mention Zelen's comment at the end, but like his comment at the end. But it's she doesn't want to go. This is the thing. What James says, she doesn't want to go.
She doesn't want to go. The manager doesn't like her. That's what we're trying to explain. The manager doesn't like her. She's a Man United fan. She wants to play the games.
I'm old enough and ugly enough to work with bosses that doesn't matter what I'm going to do. They were ready to set me up with a fall. And unfortunately, the only way you can get around that is leaving. And, and I don't want her to leave, but there's no point having people on the bench, that you're not going to play. It's just pointless. They might as well not be there. And he's starting to become very predictable and very almost.
That's what my problem is. We're getting far too predictable. We're getting predictable with our lineup and our bench options.
Yeah, with our bench options, we've got and it hurts to say because she's not been given the opportunity. Now we could spend hours and hours and hours talking about Zelen. I mean, it is interesting how I can't think of any other captain for any other football team in the WSL. Maybe you might with them. Actually, with men's, even I can, Maguire. But, I can't think of any other captain that is almost universal. Well, not universal. It's disliked so much by a lot of the fan base and supported to the point of being an angel and made flesh by the other side of the fan base.
Maguire isn't liked by any of the fan base.
No, I know, yeah, but I can't think of it as Catherine's saying there, she's being wasted on the bench. And I honestly don't trust Skinner as far as I could throw him. I don't think, I've been with bosses where they say, I'm not happy with your performance. You go, okay, fine. And they say this, and this, and I want it to improve. And then either, I don't know, the task you're given or whatever, you kind of settle for a fall. People talk about being settled for a fall. And then you have the next 1-to-1 and they say, well, actually, you still haven't improved, so we need to move it along, and it gets to a discipline, and I kind of feel it's the same with Skinner and Borisa. She could literally score 10 goals and he wouldn't play her next game. And so we need to get rid of her because he ain't going anywhere. Zellam's not going anywhere. So he needs to put someone on the bench that he's at least going to play.
Mm-hmm. Agreed. I completely agree. I just want to say hey there as well to Nippon. Hope you're well. Thank you for coming in. My dad said we was at the game. Do you think United lost 2 points and we had a good point for Man City? I was actually speaking to a Man City fan in work today, and he even agreed that they was very lucky to get a point out of that game. Extremely lucky. He said that was the first women's game he ever went to. He said that was the first women's game I ever went to. Took my son with all his football mates, and I even looked at the atmosphere and was like, why are we not singing? Like, I'm not used to this. Like, coming from a large atmosphere of Pep Guardiola's men to coming into Gareth Taylor's side and seeing the fans, and you just hear the couple of claps and you hear the couple of cities. We was literally thinking, what's going on here? And he was saying I praise Manchester United for turning up with the atmosphere, with the team in itself, and you know what, fair play. That's right, and that's coming from a very biased Manchester City fan when I'm going to say this. But what's your thoughts as well, Chloe? And I know you wanted to touch on the comment from earlier on.
So I'll touch on your dad's first, and then I'll touch on what Andy was saying. Yeah, I think for me, I think it's a bit of both in terms of, yeah, we lost 2 points. We couldn't hold on to our lead. We couldn't get more goals. We couldn't finish. And yeah, I think City, City wanted the draw, but they wanted the win as well. I think once they got the goal, they were going for the win, and that's where we should have been, and we didn't. And yeah, we lost the 2 points, and it's one of them. It's part of the game. We win, lose, and draw, and that for me, it's what happens. I'm just glad we actually didn't lose. We actually didn't lose the 3 points, because when City scored, in my head I thought, here we go. Here's a Chelsea. Here's us losing now, and that was in my head. And when we were able to keep the ball and get it out and try and score at our end, because obviously they're scoring in front of us, it was like we just couldn't finish. So yeah, I think it's quite big that we did lose the 2 points, but we still got a point from it. We didn't lose the big 3. We didn't. I think if we lost the big 3, I think we would all be like, that potentially could be our Champions League hopes gone, because we've lost that point. And playing against City, playing against any of the top 3 really is, we win any of them or we draw against any of them, they're points towards the top 3, in my opinion. But I don't know. But then with Borisa, I think, yeah, it's one of them. If Borisa wants to leave, if she does want to go because she's not getting the game time, then I would happily say, right, Borisa, go get your game time, go and be happy. We're sorry we can't do anything for you. We're sorry we can't play you all the time. But for me, it's like, if Boris is happy to be on the bench, play the cup games, and come off the bench when needed against the big teams, like for me, I think she should have come off the bench against City, because I think she could have changed the game. And when he didn't bring her on, I was annoyed that he didn't bring her on. I was, but for me, because a lot of the fans want Boris to play, it's how do you drop the captain? It's what does, I know we dropped Katie because of the cup games, and that's because we're resting her. But for me, it's in my head. It's who do you drop for Bo Risa to play? Because you can't drop Hayley Ladd because we need that defensive midfielder. You can't drop Ella Toon because of the goals. And the only player you could drop is Zellum. But
she's the captain.
But she's the captain. And in what I know we'll touch on the quote in a minute, but it's his captain, it's the leader on the pitch. It's like, it's who would he drop? But if you think back to last season, we had Jackie Gronan, who, in terms of Jackie would be taken off, Bo Risa would come on, and we had that option for them players to be switched. But now we don't. We don't have that option anymore, and it's who do you take off? And exactly with what Lanzo's put there, it's one of them. It's hard. It's a hard decision to make, and I'm glad I'm not a manager. I really am, because the decisions that you'd have to make in terms of who do you want to sign on contracts, who do you want to keep, what players do you want to bring in, and who for, and if you bring in certain players, who's going, because you can't play everyone, because we've got it. It's hard, and we need to bring in the players that don't mind sitting on the bench. That wouldn't be mine. And we need to bring in players, because I think if Bo Risa is still getting picked for Norway, even if she's not starting, then that's something in my eyes. Because if you think national team, you get picked for your national team every time that international break comes, and you play for that national team, you think, why am I not playing for my club, but I'm still getting picked for the national team? And it's like, if I think I remember having a chat with Maisy and saying, Harry Maguire hadn't played for God knows how many weeks and months for United, but he still got picked to go to the World Cup for England. How does that happen? How is he still getting picked to go to a World Cup when he's not played? And that just shows that managers have their favourites, and managers do support them players. And for me, if Bo Risa is happy at United, like I think she is genuinely happy at United, but she might have some improvements in certain places, and she might be needed in more teams, because Sunday we've got a game against Sheffield, and she'll potentially play the full 90 again. In my head, I think she'll play the full 90, but it's one of them that I think, I know Andy's laughing, but I think it's one of them that, as long as Vilda's happy of where she's being played at and how she's being played, then it's her decision to make of whether she wants to leave the club or whether she's happy to stay, for me.
Mm-hmm. That's fine. And Andy, is there anything you want to touch on as well?
Oh, it's interesting, because I need to remember that sometimes if I affect my arguments wrongly, it'll look like I'm attacking the other person, and I hope Chloe knows that that's not the case. But I mean, let's take that as an example about national team. How can it be that Katie Zellum plays every single minute under the sun, including half her Conti Cup, but can't catch a cold with Serena Weigman? Well, I know she's played a little bit for England, but roughly. Well, the answer is if Serena doesn't actually think that Skinner's as good as he thinks he is, and how can Bo Risa play, more for Norway when she's not getting time for United, because Risa thinks that Skinner doesn't realise how good she is. For example, that would be an answer. That would be, I don't know if it's right. That would be an answer. My question to Chloe is, and I think I know the answer to this, because you see the good in all people. It's one of your greatest qualities. Do you think it's a fair cop? Do you think she's being measured fairly with United and actually can improve, in the sense of, if she suddenly did become more physical, and did improve, will Skinner actually play her? Because I have a strong feeling that it's not fair. I have a strong feeling that there is nothing she can do at this point to become a starter for Man United. Just as at one point with Jackie, I don't think there was anything that she could do to fit into Skinner's system later in the year last year. I think she's being managed out of the club personally. That's just my gut feeling. It's no more than that. I don't know anything obviously about that, because I just don't see the way, at least 5 minutes after what happened midweek, that she would play. I don't think any player is going to be happy on the bench for that long, especially in a World Cup year next year. So World Cup season, I suppose, running up to the World Cup. Yeah, and she's right, obviously, Catherine, there about Champions League football. I mean, what are we going to do with Fuso? She's probably going to go when, because it's out of sight, out of mind with Skinner. But yeah, my question to Chloe is, do you think it's a fair cop? And I'll ask the same question to Maisy. Do you think it's a fair cop that actually it is no fear or favour, and if tomorrow she did what Skinner asked her to do, he would play her? Because I don't think he would.
Do you want me to go first?
Go ahead, Chloe.
I see. We've had these chats before, haven't we, Andy? And we discuss these on the journey to and from the game, and it's good to have these opinions. And for me, I think Vilda, if Vilda works on her improvements that Mark says she needs to work on, or she gets given the things that she needs to work on in terms of whatever it is, then I think she would do. I think she could be a starter. But for me, I would start her in the games that aren't important. So in the games against Leicester, in the games against Brighton, Aston Villa, I'd start her in them games. But like we all know, managers don't drop their captains unless they're required to.
I'm not necessarily saying drop Zelen, because I might have misread this, because you're much better on formations. I've got a lot better at doing this. I'm sure Maisy maybe would say that as well. But I think there has been times where it's been Zelen Lad in the 2 DM positions. So, I mean, it wouldn't necessarily need to be Zelen, would it, that he could drop? He could drop Lad at least half through it, as a sub.
The thing is, if you're going to drop Lad, you're going to bring on, because that is
it's defensive. It's that bit defensive. Because if
Zelen's
Lad didn't play, there would be no number. If Lad didn't play, there would be no number 6 being played, and you haven't got a defensive midfielder playing. And I think for me that opens a lot of space.
Yeah.
I like Jackie Groenen, and we know that Katie Zelen doesn't get dropped. But what we noticed last season is that a lot of space was created from the pivot to the centre backs, because we did not have no defensive midfielder to do the dirty work, like Hayley Ladd does, because it is the dirty work. No one looks at it and go, "Well done, Hayley Ladd, you've done a good game." No one looks at it, because it's all the scruffy work, and she does the scruffy work, and then everybody else in front of her does their job, and they score assists where they decide to do. And I think that was one thing that let us down when we had the pivot of Groen and Zelen. Yeah. We didn't have them opportunities. And I think for me is that I think that Borisa is getting cut out of the club. Because you look at the kind of qualities that Vilda Borisa has, for me, she offers something different creativity-wise, compared to the other players. And I look at it, as Chloe said, the Leicesters, the Reddings, why did she not even start a game in that one? She barely even started a game last season in the league. The only time she started a game was when there were injuries. And when there was injuries, there was rumours she was going to be played as a fullback, because we didn't have any fullbacks.
Yeah, and I think for me as well, I think if we go back to the first season with Mark, we all know, and I don't know if Catherine Brackett is still in the chat and if she can say this or not, but we've all heard that she wasn't Mark's signing, and that's the worry. And I think if we knew clarity that if she was marked signed, if she wasn't, then that would be another thing that we could question. But every player who joins, it's like Jonas.
I agree with Catherine on this, by the way, as well.
Yeah, I think, and yeah, I agree with that. And I think going back to what you were saying as well, Maisy, in terms of Zellerman Lad, and obviously we had Zellerman Groningen last season. If you had Lad and then you take Lad out, you go to a 4-4-2. Or
I hate that formation. I'm not going there with that formation. Don't like it. It's old-fashioned. It's ugly. I hate every single little thing about that formation. I have no good words.
That links back to what we were saying, and I asked a question for you two because you've got a more broader knowledge than me with the men's and the women's game. Is it common that that a team just has one formation? Because we just do 4-2-3-1. Like
I think if you look at, for instance, Leicester, Reading, they change their formation depending on who they're playing against. Even Brighton does that. Like, they change from playing 3 at the back to 5 at the back, and depending on the opposition they play against, you look at. I'm sure, if I'm not mistaken, there has been a time where Aston Villa's played 5 at the back, but then the following times they play a 4-2-3-1 or they play a 4-3-3. So I think it's all dependent on oppositions. But when you are a strong enough team in the league, you don't change your formations because you're thinking, well, I'm a strong competition here. I'm not adapting my formations to suit other people's formations. Look at Emma Hayes. Yeah. She would never change her 3-4-3 to think, I'm playing against Man United today. I'm not changing. Why should I change my 3-4-3? Because look who I've got. I've got Millie Bright. I've got Buchanan. I've got Eve Perisic. I've got Niam Charles. So why would I need to change that? I've got a great defence.
Exactly.
But, so what we'll do now, just want to say, hey there, Rich. The score was 1-1. Hey there to James. Pay Russo her money. And hey there as well to Lanzo. We'll quickly say which City player will get to United team. Probably Hemp for me.
Pretty sure.
I'm not a fan of her. What about you, Chloe?
Hemp or Chloe Kelly?
To be honest, I don't think Chloe Kelly does well in that City side. No, I don't. I'm not a fan of her for City. But before we do wrap up, we will quickly touch on the FA Cup draw. And of course, I would just want to show this quick comment what Andy wanted to touch on as well. Skinner, it's amazing people don't see it. Katie Zellen's qualities. She's my captain for a reason and a modern day quarterback. Do you want to quickly touch on before
I'm
we
going
go
to be quick
to...
on this. I mean, to be honest, I know obviously Chloe's, she's got trying to make sure she's got an advantage on her own, but I mean, I feel like I've already had a bit of a rant on this and I could go on for hours, so I've got to keep it very quick, but it's beyond ridiculous. The guy spent a cup of coffee in the US and thinks he can talk about the NFL. I do watch a lot of NFL. Now, your quarterback, if you're not aware of it, is literally the heart of the team. It's loved by the fans. It motivates the defense, the offense, the special teams. You know, they are like the most quality. They are protected on the pitch. They are the highest quality on the pitch. They are your most expensive position on the pitch. None of that is Katie Zellum. Now, and I think, you know, I've calmed down a little bit since I saw the quote. I just thought it was absolutely ridiculous and other things I can't say on here. But I think the thing is about what he's saying is because he is pushing and pushing, because even Serena Wegeman doesn't think she's as good. Because if he did, she would play it as a starting player for England. You know, he's pushing people's backs up because he's like, she's the second coming of Christ, Katie Zellum. And it's making everybody maybe get a bit to the extremes. She's not a terrible player. She's not world class. I would pretty much think that he thinks she's world class. I know she said she motivates the players and that kind of. We're never going to see that personally, but it worries me, that comment, and maybe this is what I should finish on. It worries me on that comment because that tells me that is like adoration. That is blind love, not analytical comment. That is literally like I am. You know, that is like the snake in the Jungle Book. That is totally look into my eyes, and that's what makes me worry when her abilities drop. You won't see it, and we know he doesn't see it. So it was just one of those silly little comments. I find it offensive on two matters because I actually know what a quarterback does in an NFL team, and it's utter bollocks. But I also know it kind of says to me more about what Skinner's view on Zelen is, and that is that she's come up on high, basically.
Yeah, so before we quickly wrap up, we'll discuss the FA Cup. We've got Blackburn or Sunderland. Chloe, what do you think of that draw, and who would you want?
I don't mind the draw. I would prefer Blackburn, but I'll be working that weekend, so I won't be able to go to any of them.
What about you, Ander?
I think both teams are weak in the Championship, but then I think so was Durham, and look what happened in the Conti Cup, and it's going to be on their manor as well, as you would say. It's going to be on their pitch. I think possibly Blackburn is a bit of a stronger opposition, but they're kind of there and thereabouts. Sunderland has a very strong women's football heritage in the Northeast, and they always still feel that they kind of got screwed by the FA when they set up the WSL and the FA Championship. So they're looking for a giant killing, and there would be a big atmosphere there. So I think they're kind of both similar games. So I really don't have much of a preference. Possibly Sunderland, because I know the Geordies don't like us, and it's a bit of a trip and a bit of an adventure. But I'd take Blackburn as well because it's a bit closer.
Yeah, I'd be happy with either. I think I would just want Sunderland just because it's different. I don't even remember the last time Man United altogether played against Sunderland. It's been a very long time since it's happened, so I'd like to see that little bit of history strike again. And we know Sunderland is quite a physical side, so I'd like that for both reasons. And I think that we can afford to give players some more game time who hasn't had the game time in that FA Cup draw, and see what they're all about.
And hopefully, very quickly, if it's Sunderland, they'll play at the Stadium of Light, maybe. And if it's Blackburn, they might play at Ewood Park as a one-off, because I think it'd be a good event for them.
Exactly, completely agree. So we'll wrap it up here anyway. Thank you, Andy. Thank you, Chloe, for both coming on. Been a great show as always. Chloe, would you like to shout out your socials?
Yeah, thanks for having me on, Maisy. It's been a pleasure as always. Love doing these with you and Andy. I love our little debates and opinions back and forth from all of us. My Twitter's there, Chloe Riley 14, and I look forward to the next one.
And Andy, thank you for coming on. Would you like to shout out your socials?
It was great. Obviously, we're getting more and more great comments and great commentary, and it's great to learn off you and off Chloe. And I think we sort of kept it at the right side of the line, we always do. Just a quick plug for Maisy's badge there. If you can see it, it's available to members of the channel.
I'll get that sorted very soon. These postal strikes.
It will be coming out.
Chloe's not got a Christmas card yet. It's been nearly 2 weeks.
So I'm just repping that, and she kindly gave me and Chloe one because obviously we're the contributors on there. At the minute, my main social is at AJ_87, and again, I can't wait for the next one. I really love the opportunity to be on here and actually speak to people that isn't just my wall in my empty house, and it's been great to be in the comments and to see Catherine as well again in the comments as well.
Thank you both for coming on, and smash that like and subscribe button. I'll be live at 10:30 with Luca. We'll do our World Cup semi-final predictions, so go and check that out. And go and check out Andy and Chloe on their socials. But until then, take care, everyone. Ta-ta.